I wonder whether you are kind of scared of receiving. So, what I mean by that is like someone giving something to you that you weren't expecting. It's a kind of surprise. It's like, oh, what do I do with this? Recently, I've been on kind of the receiving end. Now, that when they say the phrase, I've been on the receiving end, it sounds like you've been on the receiving end of something, quite nasty or abusive or something. But in this case, actually, it was the other way around. It was more, I've been on the receiving end of some really good things, things that I wasn't expecting. It wasn't, it was just wonderful things shared to me. And I took them in, and I was, for a moment there, I thought, this can't be true. I give and give and give and give, I give out. But I was given some things. They're not, they're just wonderful little things, but they made me stop and made me consider actually how much I did need that particular gift to be given to me. And and you got to, when that sort of thing happens, I really think it's important to not just rush to give something back. Um, but it's actually important to take it in, to soak in it, and let that gift really reach deeply into your heart. Because I really believe that we live in what I would call a very much a transactional world. And what I mean by a transactional world is that we have a thinking: if you do this for me, then I will have to do this for you, or if I do this for you, you should do this for me. Um, and it's a world where we say, okay, so I've worked so many hours, I've worked 8 hours today, therefore I should get this amount of pay in recognition of the energy that I've given out. And there's that phrase: you do the crime, you do the time. And there's you've sown these things, you're going to reap them now. It's a very transactional thing. Like, you made your bed, you've got to sleep on it. It's justice and retribution. It's black and white. You're in or out. It's A plus B equals C. It's very transactional, very logical, and there's no room for it's very just. Okay, you do this, you get this. You've done this, you get that. It's not about mercy. It's not about grace. It's about justice, and we really actually quite like that because it all feels very fair, balanced, correct. And then someone comes along and says something to you, or does something, or gives you something where you didn't deserve this, or you've done nothing to deserve it, and there's no strings attached. It's just complete gift, and you start to wonder. You start to wonder, have you got something wrong? Do I need to um, be more open to receiving? And that's been sort of like a little devotional challenge for me recently, is that, am I open to receiving? And Jesus told this interesting parable, and it's one of those parables that if you're in this trade union movement, you wouldn't be very happy at all. And it's a story of this vineyard owner, and he wants to get some work done on his vineyard, and so he goes down to the local village square first thing in the morning to hire some workers. And this is what they normally did in the day. So they'd go down and hire day workers to work for the day. So he finds some people, and some people, and he says, "Can you come and work for me?" And they say, "Yep, sure." And he says, "I'll pay you a day's wages." And they said, "Yep, that's fair." Yeah, very transactional. Boom, boom. And so he goes, so they go off and start working out in the hot sun, I suppose, and working in the vineyard. And then he goes down again at midday, and to see if there's any other workers, and he finds some, and he he does the same thing again. He says, "Come and I'll pay you a fair wage." And then at 3 p.m. he does the same. And then at 5 p.m., you think 5 p.m., that's right at the end of the day, the working day. There's not much more to do. He goes back and he does it again. He looks at people and he says, "Can you come work in my vineyard and I'll pay you a fair wage?" Now, to understand this a bit more, the people who get picked first in the first picking, they're probably going to be the most fittest, the strongest, the healthiest. He's going to get probably a lot more work out of them because of their physique and so on. Whereas at the end of the day, it's basically those people who weren't picked by anybody, any other vineyard owner, anybody to do work. So I'm thinking people who may be disabled, who may be unwell, may be on crutches, all those sort of things. So that they, yeah, they're not going to get picked. So they're like, how am I going to meet my requirements of food and so on for the day? And so they get picked and they get cut to come. I don't know how long they worked, maybe for 5, 10 minutes. I don't know. So at the end of the day, he gets everybody together and he says, "Rightio, right, time to be paid." And so he starts off with the very last ones that came, the ones that he picked at 5 o'clock, and he hands them the equivalent of a day's wages. All right, equivalent of a day's wages. And you can imagine that, like you've only turned up for 5 minutes and somebody gives you a day's wage. That's that's a gift, isn't it? You would think that is a gift. And Jesus is saying, well, this is what God's kingdom is like. God considers the last, the ones that weren't picked, as equally as the first. That there is he doesn't look at transactional about what you put in and what you put out. It is just totally grace and mercy. And so these guys, at the end of the day, get a gift. Now, you need to read the rest of the story because the people that got picked at the start of the day, they got paid a full day's wages, and as they had agreed upon. And so, therefore, and they got a bit shirty about it, that they had worked all this length of time and they didn't get the full day's wages. And yeah, that's why I think unionists and some others will be very, this is an unjust. But Jesus is saying more about how God's money kingdom works. God looks at us all the same and looks to for the needs of those people who aren't able to um, do what they others can do. And I look at that and I want to sit in the person who has just been picked at 5 o'clock and I like to sit there for like 10 minutes and see the shock and the surprise and the I'm getting paid a full day's wage for something I really didn't do much for. And I think that's what um, I want to actually make sure you understand is that I think sometimes we're scared of receiving when we can't give back. Those last workers would never been able to give back what they received. And I think thankfulness is the art of sitting quietly and noticing. Thankfulness is the art of sitting quietly and noticing. It's a sitting and noticing with thanks what you have received and going, thank you. Um, yeah, being grateful. Blaise Pascal said there's a God shaped vacuum in the heart of each man which cannot be satisfied by any created thing, but only by God the Creator, made known through Jesus Christ. And I look at that and I say, there is a vacuum, there is a place in my heart um, that there is a need. And Blaise is right. It can only be met by God in God's ways, made known through Jesus Christ. But I'd like to kind of add to that is that the question is, well, who does God use to express that gift through today. And so I would suggest that it's you and it's me. And it's listening for those little prompts that you might receive about giving something to someone that um, there's no way that they could repay. It's just a generous gift of amazement. And I think many times you have to do that in quiet and secret so they don't try and repay, but just some words. It could be just some words. It could be a little, might be a cake, could be throwing a birthday party for someone. Or it could just be a sense of being there, just sitting with them and saying, I'm going to sit here for the next hour while you cry or while you laugh. I just want to be here, just listening to you. That could be a huge gift for somebody. And I'd also encourage you to become comfortable with receiving, comfortable with receiving where you can't give back. You can't give back what they've given. It's not a transactional lifestyle. It's an overflowing grace lifestyle. So there's some thoughts about receiving and living a life where you uh, listen for prompts from the Spirit to actually uh, share something that others might be quite surprised to give. Okay, bye.